If you're listening to this right now, it's because you are a part of a very specific group of people whose consciousness is moving through a very non-linear path. And I have to say, this message today is not meant for everyone. You have to very strongly be able to discern if this is for you or not, because this specific message is for a very rare collective who has lived through repeated endings and then found themselves continuing forward anyway. And I don't just mean this in a metaphysical sense or just in a spiritual sense also, although it is, but this is for some of you a very real experience as well. And what I mean by this is that many of you listening to this who it's actually meant for have lived through moments where the continuation of your life or your sense of self was not necessarily guaranteed. And for some of you, this has been, like I said earlier, a very physical and very real experience. I'm talking about moments where your body crossed thresholds that most people only read about or hear stories of, where you were essentially given the option of exiting this dimension physically. And for others, this has happened internally within the psyche or through repeated dissolving and rebuilding of identity or direction and meaning of life in a very extreme way. And it hasn't happened just once or twice, whatever the case was, but it had happened enough times that the process itself just no longer feels unfamiliar to you or your body or your mind or your spirit. And this is where your connection to Osiris is coming through, because Osiris for you is not just a symbolic idea or this mythological figure, because this connection that you have to Osiris actually represents a consciousness pattern that understands how to move through death-like thresholds, essentially, without losing the continuity of the true self. It is this template that basically knows how to reorganize itself even after separation from the physical vessel, and how to return to function as a consciousness and as an embodied being after being broken into pieces. And this template also knows how to remain present with the self even when everything maybe once defined you is no longer applicable for you anymore. So this message is for a very specific group again, and these specific group of people have this pattern already living inside of them. So when I'm speaking of it, this should be feeling very familiar if you are connected to this consciousness. And you also, for the ones who are resonating, have a very strong connection to Orion. And Orion consciousness carries a strong polarity because it governs order, but only after disruption, right? And it has this, it carries the same underlying template as Osiris, which is also why Osiris is associated with Orion as well. Because this consciousness is connected not only to death and rebirth cycles, but also to a sense of authority that returns after these structures and systems have basically failed or have been transformed completely by being burned to ashes. And it returns with structure once that stability has run its course and has been exhausted. And rebuilding basically after all of that becomes so necessary again, right? So this is also why Orion has always carried that weight and significance throughout mythology and historical narratives, because it carries that template of rebuilding after all of that exhaustion of instability running its course. So as this is coming through, the pyramids of Giza are also showing up very strongly, and the pyramids of Giza are aligned with this Orion's belt as well. So the 3 stars in the Orion constellation are the Orion's belt stars, and this alignment with the pyramids in Giza is very significant here, because these pyramids were also actually built during a time when Earth herself, or the grid points of Earth, was undergoing reconstruction in a really extreme way, because the pyramids were placed at key grid points and created as stabilizers, or points where energy or memory and even function were brought back into alignment so that civilization could continue operating after a very, very catastrophic event that had occurred. So the pyramids appeared after this huge disruption here on Earth, and they happened after that disruption, not before it, right? So this again mirrors how you operate as well, because your presence tends to come online most strongly after something has ended, or after something catastrophic might have happened, or something very extreme has happened in your life. Basically, after identities or relationships or this very strong inner frameworks just stops working for you in that way they maybe had, or they maybe once did for you, and your strongest identity, your truest self in those moments actually steps forward. And this is why you are not also oriented toward preservation for the sake of just preserving something, or for the sake of comfort and safety, but you are oriented toward continuation through restructuring, through actually rebuilding blueprints and grids. And this is also why you have survived so many versions of yourself that other people have never even gotten to encounter within themselves, or have gotten to activate within themselves, right? You have moved through such deep internal terrain, and you know there is more ahead of you to dive deep into, but your psyche understands the process of death, rebirth so intimately that it does not shut down just when something is ending or transforming, or it feels like there's that process has started to begin again, because for a lot of people this process is very scary, and even the smell of the transformation coming in is very scary, which is why they dissociate with their body, or they go into distracting themselves, right? But you have survived so many versions of yourself, and you have gone through so many ego deaths and transformation and reorganization of your system within yourself and your inner self, and just having to begin again and again and again in so many phases of your life, whether that be metaphysically, right, or spiritually, or actually literally physically. All of this has been that pattern, or that consciousness that is connected to Osiris consciousness, basically being played out in your life, that you are so connected to. And this transmission is here to confirm that you have re-entered yourself and your life from many different angles because of this, the awareness you carry now and the internal stability you have created cannot be taken away from you. The level of connection that you have with your inner self, with your divine self, it cannot be taken away from you. And just like Osiris, right, who was separated into pieces, or I'm not sure exactly, but I think cut into pieces, but either way, he was returned whole again. He was restored back to life. So you are connected to that level of your true self that no one can take away from you, and you keep coming back from that disconnection no matter how it happens, even though if it was physical or metaphysical or spiritual. So this transmission is basically here to acknowledge that your repeated experience of loss or separation or even near-ending moments where part of this operating structure that you are so aligned with, and it is also here to support you on your soul's journey, okay? And this Orion or Osiris connections and consciousness that you are connected to, they do not avoid endings, neither do they avoid transformations in the deepest of levels. It is actually a template that is honored by this consciousness. So it is also a template that is oriented around transformation through death and rebirth, and it really recognizes this process as necessary. And you are deeply connected to this consciousness, which is why your soul understands the importance of these experiences too. And not only for your own growth, but for the collective as well. And the way you are connected to the collective field and how you help the collective transform at the deepest of levels by understanding the importance of death and endings and transformation and rebirth and all these cycles of transformation. And that is also why you have lived through experiences that required deep transformation, and maybe including those moments for some of you that felt like physical or existential endings. Or maybe some of you, like I said in the beginning of this transmission, maybe some of you have actually had those experiences where you almost exited this dimension, right? But this message is here for you to confirm for you that you are so deeply connected to this level of template of endings, which is so necessary for the human collective, and actually not only the human collective, but the collective that is residing here on Earth as a whole. So this is also a transmission to acknowledge that support you are here giving the collective and providing for the collective just by merely existing and holding this template for the collective and playing this role of essentially a phoenix, but also this consciousness of Osiris and Orion, and holding this level of polarity and holding it so well. Okay, so this is a confirmation for a very rare collective, but if this has found you, it is going to resonate with you in some degree, and you have a connection to Osiris to some degree or another. So take this as a confirmation and let me know how you resonated with this reading, how you resonated with this message, and if you would like to share any of these experiences that you have gone through, feel free to do that and let us all know. But thank you so much for tuning into this transmission, and I'll catch you on another one now.